Hi guys, welcome to Unit 6. You are going to love this unit because it is when we start taking all these little pieces that we've started to put together and we apply them to our lives. We start seeing like, how can I change because of this? And so it gets pretty exciting. And we're going to start by looking at some of the principles of change and how we find our own path and our unique way of serving the world through the story of Gladys Aylward. And so if you've read her book, it's incredible. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's called Gladys Aylward, Little Woman, I think. And in it, at the beginning, she says that she had always wanted to be an actress as a little girl, but then she has an event in her life that kind of helps her see things, open up a new avenue of thought. And so this is what she says. My one ambition in life was to go on stage. I had nothing much in the way of education, but I could talk and I loved to act. One night, however, for some reason I can never explain, I went to a religious meeting. There, for the first time, I realized that God had a claim on my life. I later read an article about China that made a terrific impression on me. To realize that millions of Chinese had never heard of Jesus Christ was to me a staggering thought, and I felt that surely we ought to do something about it. I visited my Christian friends, but no one seemed very concerned. So she goes along like this for a little while, trying to figure out what she can do to help the people in China. And it finally occurs to her that maybe she can just go herself. And so she goes to a missionary college and asks to be admitted so she can go teach people in China. They admit her, but she doesn't learn the language very fast. And so they say, no, sorry, I don't think you're cut out for this. And they kick her out, basically. But she just cannot get the thought of China out of her mind. And so she tries a lot of ways to earn money. She's a maid. She does different things. And finally, she saves up enough to make it to China. And her trip there is so inspiring and so hard. And she has all these things happen. But miraculously, she's able to overcome them and she gets to China. And at first, of course, it's hard to learn the language and to really get going. But then she's given this job to go and examine people's feet, the women's feet, because they had stopped the practice of foot binding in China. The government had decided that that was a bad practice, but a lot of the villagers still wanted to do it because they thought that little feet were pretty. And so they hired her to go to the villages and examine, make sure that people were not binding their feet. And this was a perfect opportunity for her because she was able to go, and as she talked to people and examined their feet, she could tell them Bible stories. And her acting skills as a little girl from learning how to tell stories really helped her be able to share the stories in a way that was engaging, that drew them in, and that helped them just love her and love the gospel. And so it's really cool how her life went in that direction, and avenues were opened up to her to do what she wanted to do most with the skills and talents that she had and that she loved. Later on, she ends up having to, the war comes to China, and she has to take a huge group of children, a bunch of little orphans, across a big mountain to get them to safety, and that is an incredible story as well. But I want to bring her up for a couple of reasons. One is to illustrate just how often we get stuck there, right? We kind of ask our kids, what are your talents? What are your passions? What do you want to do? And we just keep drilling that into them. What do you want to do with your life? And they get stressed out. They're not sure. And they sometimes just get so into themselves that they don't know how to get out and really see what they're meant to do. And so Gladys took the next step. She didn't just ask herself, what do I like to do? And just follow that passion. She started to notice, like, maybe there's something that that people need from me. Maybe I'm meant to also help others, not just care about what I want to do. And so she was able to take that step. The other thing I wanted to illustrate how often is the thing that bothers us a lot that gives us a really big hint into the talents and gifts we're blessed with that we can change the world with. So for Gladys, it was China. She just kept having this thought about the Chinese people, and it really bothered her that they did not know about Jesus Christ. For someone else, it may be that they've struggled with some mental health issues and they've overcome them, and it really bothers them when they see other people struggling with them. So often our own trials, overcoming our own trials, helps us know what our next step is in helping others overcome those. So for some, it might be that they see hungry children and they really want to help feed the hungry children. I've heard of one lady that started this after school program where she'd invite kids to her house and feed them lunch and talk to them about being about their school. So everybody has different circumstances in their life that attract them to different things, and also different ideas and talents that they can use. And so as we start to put these together and put the pieces in this puzzle together, it starts to become more clear how we can help. And so we start by asking, in which way do I feel most often called to help? And we'll start to see patterns. So here's the questions that I want you to journal about today. They are in Challenge 4, Choose Your Mountain and Find Your Path. And the first question is, what are some of the problems I see? What do my friends and family struggle with? What are the struggles in my own heart? These are all going to, as you journal about these, they'll start giving you ideas. What are some underlying causes to these problems? How are these struggles evidence that there is a war between good and evil raging all around me? And so this is going to help you start brainstorming what's my part in the fight for good. And if I had to pick one, two, three things to help solve first, what would they be? So if you start brainstorming these things, you'll start to get ideas, and you'll start to climb, right? So you'll have an idea about helping one person, and as you help them, you'll see what gifts and talents you have, and then you'll find another way you can help, and as you help there, you'll see more gifts and talents, and ideas will come to you, and little by little, you're taken higher and higher up this mountain. That's why I call it Choose Your Mountain. Then you get a clearer view. You start to see the world in a better way, with a better perspective, and you start to understand who you are and your part to play in helping this world that you see around you. So for me, I think I've mentioned this before, but what bothered me the most was seeing people not being able to understand who they were and living up to their potential. So either they would distract themselves and numb their feelings away about things they could do, or they would just keep going, busy, and not really hone in into their personal, unique path, because they were just so busy doing all the things and being like everybody else. And that's why I started the book, and why I started the program, is because that problem was something that was often on my mind, and I would write about it, I would talk about it, and I wanted to help people see who they were more clearly. So that process is what has brought me to where I am now. I not only get to homeschool my 8 amazing children, but I get to be a life and health coach for other homeschooling families, so that they can also live a life that's going to bring them the most joy and fulfillment, and help them lift their family and make the biggest impact on the world with their unique gifts and talents. What I mean by homeschooling families are families who have chosen a home-centered education. That doesn't mean that they don't outsource aspects of it to different teachers or mentors or schools, but that they've chosen that the home is the foundation for their children's education. And that sort of responsibility can really make a mom feel weighed down with overwhelm about the lack of time to necessarily teach her children everything, while also fulfilling her responsibilities, and also understanding her own lack of knowledge of the things that her kids need to know, and her weaknesses and her inconsistency. And so that can make you also start to feel really guilty about what those weaknesses, the effect that those weaknesses have on your children. So I created a step-by-step process to help her feel happy and confident and healthy as she and her children work together to build systems and habits in their home, which inspire them to choose to learn and enable them to use their gifts to make the world a better place. So for today, I have a link that has your, I think I call them quick habits. What you're going to do is you're going to look at each of your Rise Up goals and your truth statements about each one, and you're going to think of one thing you can do that's going to take you like 2 to 5 minutes at the most each day, that's going to change what you're currently doing in that area of your life to moving more towards that truth statement or that goal. So it could be for relationships, you take a minute each morning to connect with each of your children. Or for like identity and spiritual, maybe you take a minute to say a more sincere prayer every day. Or for your physical health ones, it could be that you just recite a truth statement that you've written, and you do that every time before you walk into the kitchen or walk towards the pantry. For the environment one, maybe you take a moment to post inspiring quote on your mirror every day, or maybe your truth statement, put it on your mirror so that you can start reciting them and memorizing them. So just pick some little action in each one of those steps that's going to help you start remembering your why in all of these areas, and that's going to help you start moving forward in a more holistic way. When we move forward into the Compass Bootcamp, then we start focusing more on each individual area. The Compass Bootcamp is going to help us really start practicing the skill of personal revelation, so that we and our kids can really start developing a personalized education plan that's going to help us know what gifts to develop, what talents to practice, what things we should study and learn about, and what direction we should go. In the MAP Bootcamp, we really start to expand our vision and to really see things more clearly. And so it's where we make a summit phrase and we start to understand how we can use that summit phrase to help us develop the character traits that we need in order to be at the place where we want to go. And then we move on to the Armor Boot Camp, where we start to understand our emotional triggers and how to use those for good. That will trigger us to do something good instead of leading us to the things that tend to numb us and distract us. And then we move on to our thoughts and how we can use our thoughts to lead us to our goals instead of pulling us away and distracting us from them. And then we go on to our health and our body, our physical goals, and how we can use this instrument of our spirit to help us become who we need to be, and in ways to keep it healthy, and goals that we can make that are centered on that focus so that we can actually keep them. We move on to our environment and resources, how we can increase those and how we can make our environment a place where those things grow. And then the last one is our combat skills, and that's using our gifts and talents and making an impact in the world with them, and really learning how to do that and the steps necessary in order to grow our message and share it with others. So that's a lot to take in, but that's kind of a really brief intro into what we're going to be doing. So if you're interested in signing up for the next one, our Compass Bootcamp, I'm going to go ahead and put the link below. And I'm excited to grow with you, to go on this journey with you, and to start making an impact in the world as we work together to use our gifts and talents to help one another grow and lift our families and make an influence for good in the world. So I'll see you there.